Do you think anyone should play with generative AI tools? Like if you run a business or you're a content creator or you run a charity or whatever, should we all be experimenting with these tools?
I don't think we've got a choice. Today's as dumb as AI is ever going to be. And so I think everyone needs to understand how it can support you. 40% of our inquiries now are AI, and if we don't provide it, then somebody else will, right? So we have to lean into it. We still have got a phalanx of animators globally who produce what we call, this hybrid approach, because the software it isn't as good as the companies say it is, but you best believe we're making sure the animators learn AI so that they have that language to liaise with producers and perhaps liaise with clients as well. I don't like it, and I really fear, and I cannot stress this enough, I really fear for the consequences of what we're doing socially and psychologically. I have real reservations about it. And unfortunately, I'm involved in it.
I'm excited about this conversation because we talked in depth about a month or so ago about all sorts of things. So I'm excited to pick it up with you again. I guess for the benefit of the people watching and listening, can you just briefly explain what you're up to in your professional world right now and what you're currently building?
In my professional world, I 26 years ago started a company called Synima, and we started with video production when it was just possible to do it, ingest video from a mini DV camera. And then we went through the various formats of CD, DVD. And then in 2013, we got into animation. And then in 2022, 2023, we got into AI. And at the moment, we're really leading the pack on AI video production globally. We've gone from, it's been an absolute fairy tale ride. So we've gone from 2 people, myself and Matt, who started this company in what became my daughter's bedroom. And now we're 50 people strong in London, New York, Los Angeles, and Amsterdam. But we got a footprint everywhere, basically, with freelancers and what have you. Yeah. And then in 1996, I qualified as a psychotherapist, and that really informs me personally about where we're going, without getting all Yuval Harari on it, but where we're going as a species with AI and what AI can teach us about ourselves and how we're using the latest shiny new tool to affect our quality of life, and with particular regard to communication, which, because we are a language based animal, how video and animation, particularly, well, especially if it's produced with AI, affects how we communicate in creative and relatable ways. That was a bit of a long-winded intro, wasn't it? There we go.
No, I love it. What was like the catalyst for you wanting to become a qualified psychotherapist?
So my aunt Marion, so my aunt was a woman called Marion Woodman, and she's not really known very much in the UK, but in Canada, she was the doyenne of the mind-body relationship, with particular reference to women and anorexia and bulimia. So she was an analytic psychologist. So she studied at the Carl Jung Institute in Zurich and then went back. And she produced a number of books, The Pregnant Virgin, Addiction to Perfection, and her client list was large. And this is just as the comms around psychotherapy started to break, So now we have the doyens, we've got the Esther Perels and the Bessel van der Kolks and the Gabor Mates and what have you. But she's not part of that in her day, that was just starting to happen. I mean, by way of example, she was doing these things called workshops, that she was going around the world doing these workshops, having people dancing and getting in touch with themselves and doing group meditation. I mean, yes, that was around in, the counterculture of the movement of the 60s, but it wasn't on that kind of scale. And the other thing about her is that her reputation is absolutely spotless. I mean, there was never any question about her dedication to what she was doing. Long story short, she was my aunt, and so I was very close to her. I worked on some of her workshops. I, hung out with her obviously a lot, and went to Canada, and she sort of turned me on to the idea of psychology, psychotherapy, the idea of the collective unconscious, of symbolisms, of metaphors, and all of these things which are part of comms in video and animation. So there's, some people say, why have you got these two disparate careers? And for me, they're not disparate; they're absolutely entwined, because we use language to define ourselves, and we use language to define ourselves with one another, to communicate with one another and to mirror one another. And because the visual medium is so quick to communicate ideas, being able to do that, to understand the psychology behind it, I think is part and parcel of what good communication is. And the guy that came out with that was your man. When he went, with Jungle Book and Snow White and Pinocchio and Dumbo and Bambi, all of those visually literate sort of moments that engaged people then and continue to engage people now. I mean, especially Disney Corporation, and that lights me up. What can I say? There's particular reference to, and we might go on to this in terms of helping people with psychologically, because there's an epidemic of psychological issues in our culture at the moment. And I think that animation is an incredibly underutilized resource, very, very cost effective, especially if you're producing it using AI.
And was that one of the reasons why you decided to bring animation into the company as well?
No. What happened was, I'll just turn the volume up. What happened was, in 2013, it became possible because Adobe released After Effects, and we could only do, the first thing we did was, iterative text. So you'd have a look space next to your talking head. And then as the CFO was babbling on about, the metrics of the company, or the marketing officer talking about the footfall to their shop, you'd have these dry metrics coming up over here. And everyone thought that was incredible. The Yanks especially, they absolutely loved it. And so we did animated text. And then it was possible to do logos. So we do animated logos, and then it really took off, and suddenly we could start doing animation, which you need because, well, as the old trope is, if it's too big, too small, or too complex, you got to use animation. So if it's too big, if you're going to show a planet flying into Earth and forming the moon, you got to go to animation. You're not going to have much luck trying to film that. If it's too small, if it's a coronavirus being eaten by a macrophage, got to do it. If it's complex, if it's oil tankers in the Straits of Hormuz, why not? Then
go there.
You got to show that, because there's no point saying there's 300 oil tankers stuck in the Straits of Hormuz and there's a seventh fleet trying to stop them, and here comes a load of ordnance from various. Show it as a graphic and people will get it. If you want to give them a pamphlet, good luck. They're never going to be able to absorb that information. But so if it's too big, too small, too complex, generally speaking, animation is the best way to do it. Obviously, using video as well. And AI is a way of supporting that and reducing costs. And so yeah, I seem to be doing very elaborate answers to what you'll be able to edit this, won't you?
Of course.
Yeah.
So going back to the start of cinema in 2000, prior to that, you were cameraman for the BBC, did all kinds of shows. I know you did Top of the Pops because you told me that last time, which is so cool because I remember watching that when I was younger. What made you decide, hey, I'm going to start my own company? Was it just the technology and you saw that the tech was becoming, I guess, more affordable and you didn't need to be a massive media company to be able to afford the cameras, or was there something more?
No. Do you know the song Tainted Love?
Yeah.
Well, Mark Armand was on Top of the Pops and he'd just done his own video. And it was like, what? Yeah. He said, I'm not going to do accents because I'll get into hot water and sued. But he said, yeah, you can now ingest video into a computer and you can do your own video. I mean, this was nuts, right? I mean, at the time, you're too young to remember this, darling, but, at the time, we thought CB radio was nuts, and suddenly you can do what? And then we thought, well, if we can do it, and there's this new thing called the internet, which we can get a pay-per-click advert on for 12 pence to be Video Production London. Well, maybe this has got wings. Let's give it a go. And for 2 years, we were doing artist show reels, and we were doing. So I'll stick to the question. So what made us decide to do it was suddenly the opportunity was there, and I thought, well, maybe we could turn this into a business. It really was. My partner Matt, my business partner Matt, he's fond of saying, we only started it when it was possible to do it. We couldn't have done it 6 months earlier. It wasn't possible. And then 2 years later, everyone was doing it. And that's been the actual nature of the industry, the market sector that we're in. But at that point, there was only us and a couple of other. Well, shortly afterwards, a couple of other people, but it was tiny, right? I mean, you think there was only the BBC, ITV, cameras up to that point were beta SPs, 30, 40K. Cameramen were like taking up mortgages to buy these cameras. And suddenly these mini DV cameras came along, and that was the start of it, mini DV tape and then chips, and we were dealing with 5Ds and things like that. The whole industry just, changed so quickly. And it became possible for us to because we knew how to swing cameras around, and then we had to learn how to edit, and then it was, well, who's the audience? And the audience was field marketing companies. We thought. So I mean, just to sort of continue on, I mean so we'd stand around outside Liverpool Street Station filming men and women handing out little packets of Actimel or little tubes of Pantene. And then we'd give a VHS. Again, it was a kind of tape back in the day, James. And the videotape had some Title Gecko. Do you remember? Oh God, where'd that come from? Title Gecko.
I don't know Title Gecko, so I grew up on mini DV tapes. That's what I learned on.
Yeah. Then and then so that tape would go from the field marketing company to the PR company. Look what a good job we've done. And the PR company would go, yeah, this is a VH. What's this video? And then they give it to their client. And then before long, we were working directly with Pantene or directly with Actimel or directly with, and then that was proper budgets then, which for two people, I mean, nobody knew what you're supposed to charge. I had no idea.
No.
And they didn't know what to pay us, but so we ended up in PR, and we started working for Chime Group and Good Relations and various other PR companies, and got into finance and tech and healthcare.
It's also amazing to think back. Like, I remember when I was at uni, you do your days filming, and then in order to ingest the footage into the computer, you literally had to run the tape for the length that the tape was. So if it was a 60-minute tape, you had to ingest it for 60 minutes. As opposed to now, you can ingest 5 hours in 5 minutes. It's crazy to think that.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it was, there's so many, I get all misty-eyed, let's have a sort of ripple dissolve going on here, as we sort of, it was hark back to it all. It was simple. And then we put it onto CD-ROM. I mean, Media Cleaner 8, I think is what we use. Compress it down, stick it on a CD-ROM. And then and then send it out. We used to go to a CD duplication house called Friendly Mouse in Surbiton. That was a guy who was older man. I mean, older than I am now. And he had these CD duplication racks, and then
Yeah.
eventually DVD duplication racks. Friendly
Yeah.
Mouse Company.
Yeah.
I mean, mad time. And people weren't putting video on the internet then. You couldn't, you know.
No, not in 2000.
Yeah, not 2000, but now, of course, everybody, it's all social. And of course, boys and girls out there who've never, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no Instagram, there was none of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the waypoints, I suppose, within the company's life were the birth of YouTube, the birth of Facebook, and they, have grown into the monoliths or the behemoths that they are.
Did you? Your story is very similar to probably the majority of people's stories, which is they see an opportunity within the industry that they work in and they understand. And if it's something they feel inspired to do, they start a business.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had a business in you, or did you start it because you saw that opportunity? And because I guess at that point you had 12 odd years of experience as a cameraman. So you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
Did you feel like a businessman before? Like, was it something you wanted to do? Like, would you have started something else?
Well, I mean, at the time I had a private practice as a psychotherapist. So I was working, doing critical incident debriefing, basic trauma counseling for sort of events around Europe. And I was working on Top of the Pops and the National Lottery, and I was working with Technovision, swinging a Technocrane. So I was doing sports events globally as well. So I was going to Kuala Lumpur and doing the Commonwealth Games and various sort of shots on. I didn't think that far ahead. I mean, we're segueing into personal life. At that point, I didn't have kids, and my wife, I've been seeing her for some years, and without wishing to sound sexist about it, when she was 37, 38 years old, so the question of kids was coming up. It's like, well, I'm out the house a lot of the time. If I want to try and get a recurring income, maybe I ought to start a business, and this looked like a good bet. And if it didn't work out, which it can't, right? Because how could it? Then I can always fall back on psychotherapy, or fall back on being a freelance cameraman, which I know a lot of my contemporaries are still doing. I mean, a guy called Ross, who I emailed today, he's just back from Rio. He's doing esports, videoing esports. So it was really, you're either going to, it was one of those life decisions where it's a big thing not to do. If I would rather sit here having fallen flat on its face and tried it than not tried it and wondered what if. And statistically, by any metric, it should not have happened. The thing lasted for 26 years and is still going strong. It should have fallen on its arse, really. And God knows, we had to go through COVID and Brexit and the financial crisis of 2008. There's enough opportunity for life to kick us in the nuts and take us out. And it certainly took out some other companies that we've got around us. But so that was what it was born of. Wanting a bit more stability and security, seeing that there's an opportunity there, and probably on balance, it wasn't the right call, right? Maybe there was like 2 or 3 bottles of red wine that I shouldn't have drunk at the time that clouded my thinking and made it a good idea. Too much hubris, too much optimism. But that's what we did. Yeah.
Did you feel like it did give you the flexibility that you were looking for? Because lots of people would argue the opposite side and say starting a business potentially it can give you flexibility, but they would say it doesn't give you stability.
Yeah, I mean, personally, right now, I mean, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I'm not. somebody who's got a McLaren outside and a house in the south of France. I never made it like that. I mean, I don't. I mean, my salary is considerably less than six figures. So, and my day to day is still firefighting. I'm still in the trenches. I'm still producing. I'd like to be one step removed. I like to be sort of going around the world in rooftop bars and infinity pools, glad handing clients. That's what I want to do. And for a while I was, actually, until COVID came along. And my day to day is managing issues that come up, a lot of which are client management, and a lot of which are staff management. So, with ensuring that the team have got that esprit de corps going on, that they're all comfortable, that they've all got the resources they want, technical issues as well. The things change every 5 minutes. I mean, we'll come on to that. Software in particular, especially with AI, I've got to stay across this, because if I'm on a client meeting or I'm doing some sort of AI consultancy or something, if somebody in the crowd pipes up with Seed Dance 2 and I don't know what it is, I'm wrong-footed. I would say, as a psychotherapist, I would self-diagnose myself as being an outlier, probably too far over on the bell curve, a bit manic at times, slightly sort of morose at other times, but still, I can't retire, because my identity is really wrapped up in what I'm doing. And because of what I do, I work with some really interesting people. I mean, really the brightest and the best. I'm not just talking about people that I employ. I'm talking about the people that I meet, I interface with. For example, and interesting, articulate, engaged people on the bleeding edge of what's happening in society at the moment, which is astonishing. And so if I go on a client meeting with somebody in healthcare, I could be talking about, the dopamine reward system. How do we animate that? If I'm in tech, it could be, we've got cloud services going on. How do we represent that? If it's finance, it could be, poly markets or high frequency trading or something, and I'm not talking to, I'm talking to the decision makers here. And, and I might really like Mary, or I might really like Frank, but how am I going to meet them otherwise? I wouldn't ever meet them. They've got gatekeepers going up the yin yang, so I don't ever meet them. But I'm invited into the room, given a cup of coffee. Here's the challenge we've got. How can you support us? Or best yet, can you go to Paris for 5 days, because we got to shoot this conference? And I'm dropped into an environment which, I would be delighted to fly to and hang out at. But even better, I'm working with locals. I'm working with the guys and the girls, and so there's all sorts of upsides.
I think that's something that I always really liked about creative services, is that if you don't niche down and you keep it broad, you do by default get to kind of wander into all these other worlds that you would never have access to. And actually have conversations with, as you say, quite senior people as well, because they might be the person that are the face of whatever video that you're creating. And I always love that, because you just learn so much. And, some of it you might forget or it goes over your head. But then I've always found a lot of what I talk to people about, I use bits of it in my personal life, or I can relate it to another client.
Yes.
Even if they're in a totally different industry, because maybe someone thinks about something in this certain way, and that works for this industry and this challenge we're having over here.
Yeah.
I always just find that fascinating.
Yeah.
And still do.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, all 22 different market sectors have all got the same challenges. They all, and if you're talking to somebody who's really good in this area, the chances are there's transferable skills or there's transferable ideas into another area, especially when you start talking about AI. And yeah, to your point, you're in the room with those people, and when would you ever do it otherwise? You're not gonna, your network isn't gonna reach out to the head of, I don't know, Gallagher's Insurance. You're never gonna meet the head of marketing at Gallagher's Insurance, and then you spend 5 minutes in the room and you go, that's, that point that she made, that was really interesting. What an interesting person, And
Yeah.
you do the job, and then you have a cup of coffee and have a chat, and it's great.
With your psychotherapist hat on,
Mm-hmm.
is it a bad thing, do you think, to have your identity wrapped up in the thing that you do?
Yes.
Because I feel like I am that person too. I feel like a lot of my identity is wrapped up in the things that I do and the things that I want to do. And in a lot of ways, it gives me a lot of fuel. But in a lot of other ways, sometimes when I'm in a non-work environment, I sometimes feel out of place.
Well, I need to talk to you much more about your presenting problem. But for me, it's a question of, and this is a question of, for me, what I try to do is to focus on the existential issues, okay, on the one hand, and then there's the identity all wrapped up in work on the other. And it's really easy for me to get pulled into the work thing, right? It's becomes a flywheel. Send that email, write that book, research that thing, watch that YouTube video, talk to that person about their issues. Now there's a couple of so then the question becomes, how do I ensure that I don't get carried away into that, right? And the way that I do that, and this is really hard coded, I try, is playing guitar, right? I have to play guitar. On a motorbike, I ride a motorbike, I've got a Bonneville, and you cannot be daydreaming when you're on a motorbike. You just die.
Sure.
I mean, that's it, right? This will make you laugh. I suggest to anybody, right, who's having problems with getting caught up in life and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, to buy one of those.
And just for context, what are you holding up on the screen right now?
An urn.
An urn.
So my point is that this is where I'm going to end up. In probably 20 years from now, that's where I'm going to be, right? So the question becomes then, how do I get from here to there? And what am I going to do, right?
Have you bought this for yourself?
Yeah. Well, who do you think's in it?
I was going to say, is there someone in it?
Just to prove the naysayers, there's no one in it. That's where I'm going.
I mean, it's a nice urn, to be fair.
Thank you very much. It's going to be my home for a while. No, but I mean, that's the. I mean, there's some sort of, I don't know. Some people might find that depressing or a bit gallows, a bit weird. But if the existential nature of life is we've got our 70 years and 10, and what are you going to do with your life? How are you going to start every day going, okay, I'm blessed, we really are in a hilarious situation, we've got a lot to be grateful for in the country that we live in and the things that we have. How am I going to live today, authentically and don't be a dick more than I actually am. And it takes, honestly, it does take me sitting down and playing a guitar or going on the motorbike or just playing with an urn for 5 minutes, but just hold that and don't let your mind wander. What are you doing? What are you actually doing? No, so you really have to, because the old trope, you can spend your whole life, and you're talking about work, right? Why do you go to work? You want to go to work because you want to improve your, I go to work because I want to improve my sense of self. I want to materially improve my lot. And you can spend your whole life climbing the ladder, rung by rung by rung by rung by rung, and you get to the top of the ladder and you realize it's leaning against the wrong wall, and where the hell did that go? And and you meet people like that who've lived their lives like that, and sometimes even on jobs, filming them. That's tricky. What do you do with that? The regrets.
Mm. The whole identity piece is fascinating at the moment as well, because I feel like with social media, there's such a big shift at the moment for people wanting to be content creators or influencers,
Yeah.
whichever terminology you want to use. Entrepreneurship is really sexy right now as well.
Yeah.
But it feels like in order to grow a business, a brand, a career in that space, you have to be online all the time, and you have to put yourself out there. And it's really hard to then separate, at James Quayle from real life James Quayle.
Yeah.
It's very hard to navigate that, because you're almost always switched on to what's the next post going to be? Who am I making this video for? And we're in a very interesting time with that, because everyone seems to be quitting big corporate jobs to become a finance influencer or a budgeting influencer. There's a few people that want to be, the Kardashians or Logan Paul or whatever. But it's a very interesting place, I feel, at the moment.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you've got to feed the beast, as they say. I mean, in terms of producing video for companies, we have these jobs which are 400 pieces of content for the next 3 months. And those are going to come around more often, I think, with AI. But yeah, how do you separate out the persona? I mean, the gut falling into sort of the language, the persona of you versus the real you that's lying underneath it, and how quickly, because of the nature of social media, it one bleeds into the other so quickly that you can lose yourself in it, and I think people do, and in order to be the signal that cuts through the noise, you have to try to figure out some way of getting through it. But it's a devil's own job. Uh, but that's also companies, have the same problem. If they're trying to sell another sort of lipstick or another sort of toilet roll, what is the USP of that product, and how do we get it out there? In creative and relatable ways, for the right budget, and what's the messaging around it? These are so, from a personal level, you have to try and stay earth, because honestly, if I think really one, that's not to sort of compartmentalize too much. I think one does feed the other, because the chances are, to your earlier point, you could be off, I don't know, fishing, and something will pop into your mind, or you could be talking to somebody and listen to their truth, as they say, in a business meeting, and it's like, oh, I'm going to take that nugget away and try and build that into my life.
I'm curious, what does Synima, and in this context, Synima, your company, not the medium Synima.
Yeah.
What does the company mean to you? Like, when you started it, was it a matter of, here's an opportunity, I've already been in this space, let's go make some money? Is it still the same now? Do you feel like you have a bigger purpose with it? Because there's some people start businesses to make money, or they don't want to be in the corporate realm anymore, whatever it might be. Some people start businesses because they want to solve a very specific problem. Some people have a sense of providing value to the world. Like, you can look at it however you want to.
Yeah.
And I've gone on a journey around not just what's my personal purpose, but what's the purpose of the things that I create.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what does Synima mean to you? Like, how do you think about it, if at all?
Well, there's quite clear in my mind what Synima means to me. Is a financial entity that has a duty of care to obviously to produce a video and animation and to hopefully exceed clients' expectations in doing so on spec and on time. And it also is a safe haven for staff who will have a regular income and a good one, and a career path, and a milieu in which they can operate the other elements of their lives. So they can have kids, they can have mortgages, they can have car repayments and so forth. So I'm very clear about that's what Synima's doing. But then for me personally, as I've got older, I set up quintboa.com to take video and animation and try and work with charities and with NGOs and with pet projects that I want to advance. The problem there is that I have there's only 24 hours in a day, and So, for example, I do a lot of work in the COA, the National Association of Children of Alcoholics, because I'm a child of an alcoholic and I am an alcoholic, right? So I've been dry for 12 years, but so that path that addiction can take you on, I have experience myself and experience as a child of an alcoholic, and National Association of Children of Alcoholics is a charity which had £16 million in 2015 and now has nothing. They got bugger all. They're running on, whoops, what's that? Something. Oh, my ad block has just interfered with our chat. That's ironic, isn't it? So picture. Okay, I'll start there again. So National Association of Children of Alcoholics, they had £16 million in 2015. Now they've got bugger all. So they're relying on fun runs and cupcakes. I'm doing a sponsored walk for them on Saturday. And they have a helpline which has got 25,000 children call the helpline every year because their parents are basically pissed downstairs on the sofa or knocking 7 bells out of one another. And so 25,000 kids, that's 25,000 people who are struggling with alcohol and aren't parenting in the way that they could be. And so what I can do for them is generate AI videos which drives people to the helpline. And honestly, James, look at domestic abuse, the report that came out yesterday. That's insane that's going on still. Actually, then we've got all of the charities that are out there could use video and animation within their budgets now, and they don't realize it. They don't have a Scooby-Doo. And what I'd really like to do is to make people aware, or the CMOs of those charities aware. Did you know that this is possible? Especially in the UK. In the US, it's quite interesting because there are tax breaks for giving to charities. So some of the charities that are over there, the NGOs, are billion-dollar entities, but over here, they basically got a roll of sellotape and a stapler. That's their revenue stream. So Synima, business entity, that's got to keep on trucking no matter what. And then there's me, Quint Boa, trying to be Jesus. There isn't actually a religious component to this. I'm just trying to be a nice guy. But yeah,
it's interesting though, because it you almost have managed to slightly disassociate yourself from Synima and your identity from there. Because if it is just a financial model, I guess there, in a weird way, you have slightly detached your sense of self and purpose from that in some way. Going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Well, only because you brought it up. Otherwise, I'd be sat here writing blogs and in the kitchen because it's a Wednesday and I WFH on a Wednesday with my head of marketing and my son who's doing videos for Sennheiser. That's, I mean, that could be a product of COVID, couldn't it? Because prior to COVID, we were all in the office working away. And now Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm at the kitchen table with head of marketing and a really powerful PC. And that really is the marketing. That's a 3-person marketing department for a multinational, multi-million-dollar, production company. That's nuts when you think about it.
Yeah.
I'm
curious. I want to talk about AI in a minute because we have
Yeah.
a lot to talk about, and we've been kind of flirting around it a little bit.
Flirting?
Before I go there,
teasing. We've been edging.
I'm teasing the audience.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier, Synima's now 50 people plus freelancers and whoever else you choose to bring in. What's been your approach to scaling and bringing people in? How did you approach that in the early days, and how has that kind of changed as you've evolved? And I guess business has got easier, and you've probably know more now than you did when you started.
Well, that's really interesting. That's a really interesting question. I mean, when we started out, I mean, one of the main hurdles we had was to employ somebody. I mean, that was a big leap. And we had to pay somebody. We got to pay their pension. We got to do all that was crazy. Responsibility of having a member of staff. Wow, that was a big leap. And then as we scaled up, we employed more and more people. So we have half a dozen editors, half a dozen animators, producers, creatives, and then for key projects when they come in, like the big projects, we have to get in a raft of people on short-term contracts, and pay them for the duration of that account. I mean, all those people that we're employing now are bloodied. We've seen them. We work with them. We know what they're going to do. We're not going to put on, we're not going to go on LinkedIn, grab the first person, or Fiverr or something like that. Can you imagine? And so that's it. I mean, it's the largest cost we've got within the company is staff, and we have to ensure that everybody's happy. And because if they're happy, then they're productive and they're engaged. The reason they got into the business is because they really want to do it, right? And we want to keep that alive and keep sort of the cross-fertilization of ideas going as best we can. I mean, I don't like working from home. I've got to be honest with you. I'd much rather everybody commuted in, if only because the young'uns, can learn from the people above them. I have internships and work placements and stuff, and they say, "Oh, can I come into the office?" And well, there is no office. You can come and sit at the kitchen table if you want, which is fine, sometimes. Anyway,
so are you completely remote then? There is no like little hub in London or anything?
No. We had a studio in Dean Street, and that we let go of last year. We've got a row of 4 terraced houses in just outside of Weybridge, which we knocked through, but that used to house 30 people. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's me, Steve, Matt, Becky, and maybe a few people prepping the camera equipment, or some tech people just like pimping some of the computers or something. That's where we are now. And yet the staff, if you go on a production meeting on Monday or Thursday morning, there's people calling in from all over the world, because that's where they all are. After COVID, everyone split. Some people got out of London, they went to Bath or Bristol or Hungary or Trieste, or they just became digital nomads for 3 months. And, as long as you can do the job, fine. Part of me is bloody jealous that you're able to do that, because I don't think I could. But as long as you're still doing it, then great, go for it. There's never been a time when we looked at staff as anything less than the golden geese.
Mm.
There's this industry that we're in is brutal, and we know, you know as well, that people, big companies, especially big production companies, big studios, treat their staff in the most atrocious manner. I mean, the horror stories you hear, people, 3 o'clock crying onto their 3 a.m. crying onto their
Yeah.
keyboard because they're going to run rotoscope something out because the
Mm-hmm.
rushes have got to be out the next day, all that, shizzle.
Yeah.
Um, we, we are very keen to make sure that a working day is a working day, and there better be a bloody good reason why you're going past 6 o'clock. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really only if you want to, and if you don't want to, then you don't have to. We'll get someone else in to, to pick up what you're doing. I will say that, and on some of the forums, we know their names. I'm not going to name check them. Where we're evaluated by people who've worked with us, our name is untarnished. I mean, we have a really good rep, and because we pay on time, and the financial architecture of the company, through thick and thin, has always been very robust. I mean, it's a point of pride actually thinking about it, because the business, is so crazy. I mean, if we got a Guinness commercial tomorrow, what we're going to do, 1 million out on location and crew and and post production, and then they're going to stick us on 90 days. I mean, I don't know. So is that Diageo? I don't even know who owns Guinness.
No idea.
And we're going to wait for that money. But yeah, you best believe you're going to be paid on 30 days, and we'll work it out that you are paid. We're not going to be, oh, we haven't been paid, so you can't be, or anything, like that.
That's always my approach. Like, I just like to make sure that the people I'm working with, whether it's a freelancer on a project or whether, someone's making some marketing stuff for me, I always want to make sure that I pay the invoice.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Yes.
And actually, I now, when I was younger, I'd maybe sometimes start projects without potentially having the right amount of money in the bank. And my viewpoint was I'll just figure it out. Now I am a lot more focused on, if I can't afford it, if I can't pay for this 2 or 3 times over, I'm not going to start the project. Like, if I can't pay that tomorrow, I'm not going to start the project until I feel like I've got that there.
Yeah. It's such a, I mean, just, it's such a problem because like with AI, well, segueing into AI slightly, with AI, the time horizon on an AI project is 3 weeks. It's not 2 months. They're not doing it for a conference. I mean, as we're speaking now, it's April 29th. It's not going to be, we want this for the middle of June. It's, we want it for the end of May. And so if you've got a new customer, by the time you start talking about the project, right? So they want to go with you. Great. We've got the job. We've got 3 weeks to produce it. Well, they've got to onboard you as a vendor. They've got to do all the due diligence around you. They've got to get a contract to you that's signed off by procurement. They've got to, and you could be working 2 weeks into that 3-week project and you have not got anything, no contract, nothing. And that's just good faith on your part. So if they decide they want to do something different or you best do it. Suddenly the power dynamic starts to change. And then I get kind of squeaky because it's like, whoa, our out costs on this are, 20, 30K or whatever. And we don't have a contract. That's just happening with AI in terms of, I'm sure we'll go on to this that's not even workflow. That's kind of financial responsibility. But I don't know what else you can do. I mean, obviously our counterparty, they feel bad that maybe there's not a contract in place and they're asking you to do things when there's no contract in place and that, but, and it's always worked out. It's never not worked out, but that's a change of approach with working with clients that AI's brought about. If it's an 8-week project and it's you're onboarded after 3 weeks, well, fine, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if it's a 3-week project and it's you're 2 or 3 days off giving it to them for a conference or something, and you haven't got a contract, it's like, well, okay. Well, suppose your client's maybe not in a less salubrious country, suppose Or suppose they're a maybe a I don't know, a crypto company or no, it's not doesn't actually do. It's not a good idea to start name checking what the problems could be, but there could be problems. You've taken that job for a reason,
Mm.
and you don't know the person or the company that you're dealing with really.
Mm.
Uh,
What's how are you going about pricing AI projects?
mm,
Because the traditional way the creative industries usually worked is you tend to work out how much time this is going to take
mhm,
and you charge day rates accordingly.
yep,
That seems to be the way, that's certainly the way I've always worked it. It seems to be the way most freelancers work it and most production companies work it too. But there obviously is the pricing theory around price it based on what value you're providing the client's going to get out of it.
yeah,
And if you think about content creators and influencers, it does feel like what they are charging for a post or a series of posts is conducive to how much attention and engagement it's potentially going to get. AI in theory, and I'm interested to know your thoughts on this, makes things quicker.
mm.
But does that mean it should be cheaper because it's taking less time? So I guess my question is, how are you thinking about pricing when you're pricing up a total AI project as opposed to a normal, video shoot?
Oh, well, that's a huge
Yeah.
question. I mean, firstly, is always galling when you're working for a behemoth, a Fortune 500 company, when they start pleading poverty because, you just pick up the Financial Times and see how much they're earning. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, uh, and that is a road to madness. If you start thinking about it, it's always got to be cost plus, hasn't it? It's always got to be, this is what we'll do it for. The value to you, and I can there's some fantastic examples. I mean, we worked with a private equity company about 5 years ago, and they had a little product. I won't name the product, but it was one of those cash things where you know they just came out about 5 years ago. And we
Hmm.
did a little video for that, and it was a little video. I mean, it was less than I think it was about $7,000 or something.
Hmm.
Well, the thing got sold for, you know,
Yeah.
2 billion quid. It was like the latest gizmo. And you just think, what?
Yeah.
Um, in terms of, with AI, obviously we're still thrashing this out, but
Yeah.
the way it looks at the moment is that, firstly, we're not into the pre-production, production, post-production phase because there is no pre-production. It is just post-production. There is production, post-production. There's not really a pre-production because by the time you've got the storyboard through, and often as not nowadays, the client will supply that, and so you just go straight at it
Mm.
and produce a V1 off the storyboard, and uh, and then that forms the basis of ongoing iterations, and then you put the fairy dust over it and make it look great. The so yes, you can do it on a per day basis, um, and which you have to do because you'll be bringing. You've got to look at the internal costs, and you've got to look at freelancers that may be being brought in to work on the project. Then you've got the production fees, which is the producer's time navigating the whole thing, um, and and then you've got the invisibles, like how much you want to work with this client. I mean, actually, on a personal level, how much you like the client,
Hmm.
um, how much you like the market sector, how interested you are in that, how much more of this kind of work you want to do. The nature of the job, is it a one and done, or is this the start of maybe a quarterly thing?
Hmm.
And that all influences, the price that you charge. But a lot of that isn't down to it just being AI versus traditional production. I mean, if you say, okay, well, AI takes less time to produce, well, it does, but it doesn't take no time to produce. The creative's still got to be in there.
Hmm.
The iterations um, still have to be achieved. especially now, I mean, as we speak, you really can't have character consistency throughout a 1-minute video. And the most you're going to get is probably 10 seconds. So we do hybrid. So we use, various, Blender and After Effects and what have you. Or we create LoRa's. Well, good luck trying to explain to a client what a LoRa is, because
what is a LoRa? I don't know what a LoRa is.
It's basically a way of getting a character and getting it created so that you can consistently use it throughout the video without it suddenly having 6 fingers or buck teeth or whatever.
Yeah.
Felix the cat is going to be Felix the cat throughout. So if you've got a brand ambassador, you need that LoRa. Otherwise, you're just in a dice roll of gen, and that's the road to madness. Especially if there's an 8 p.m. on a Tuesday deadline, which you're going to be working towards. So you need. So if the client turns around to you and says, "Well, you're using AI, so why is it that much?" And I had a young girl on a call the other day working for a big private equity company in Switzerland, and she wanted to recreate the Matrix.
Sure.
It's okay, sure, yeah, nodding, thinking in my head like, what? I said, well, what part of the Matrix do you want to recreate? Well, is it the yellow pill and the green pill? I said, Olga, have you seen the Matrix? No, I've never seen the Matrix. Right. Well, it's a red pill and a blue pill. What? Anyway, the conversation went on, and you kind of get the tone of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, and on the sordid subject of money, Olga, how much money would you like to spend on this? Well, we think maybe $3,000 should cover it. Well, you think $3,000, Olga, you think $3,000 should cover it, right? The Matrix. I said, why is that? She said, because it's AI. And I was like, okay, right. The Matrix costs $200 million, Olga. It's going to be like $25K to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, who inside that private equity company put Olga as the front person on this? It's not fair for her, and it's certainly not fair for us. We can't really, talk through a project with somebody who doesn't understand. I mean, I get the metaphor of the blue pill and the red pill and all of that stuff, but. But the fact that it's AI, I don't know another industry where, and we always got this in film and TV, didn't we? And corporate. The client somehow thinks that they know how long it takes. You wouldn't, a plumber wouldn't come and go, well, it's going to be $350. I wouldn't go to a garage and say, oh, you're going to re-weld the floor of the car. Well, that's probably about what, 750 quid? You have the temerity to do that.
I know. And I think with AI, and I mean, you and your team have so much more experience with generative AI than I do, but it's very rare, certainly for me anyway, maybe it's just me, but it's rare that the first thing you generate is exactly what you want it to do. Even if you are an expert prompt engineer, it still takes time to reiterate and get it to where you want it to be.
Yeah. Yes, I mean it's endless. I mean, we can focus it in more by doing hybridizing some parts of the process. Using animation, like Blender or whatever to give you character consistency. But at the end of the day, it does take some time to do it. Oh, and by the way, if you're working for an agency, the agency is going to sign off and say it's great. Then they're going to give it to the client. Oh, surprise, surprise, the client wants to change something,
Yeah.
Oh, we've got 2 days left before we've got to deliver this. Oh, I don't like the golden retriever. Can we make it a Dalmatian? What? Could you not? In the storyboard, it's a golden retriever. You want to make it a Dalmatian now?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I don't like the whatever, I mean, if this is what, I mean, to be absurd about it, if I wanted to create a spec advert for Coca-Cola, I'd create that spec advert in 2 days. When we're doing work for charities, we can more or less, because charities aren't paying anything for it practically, we can more or less dictate what it's going to look like. Well, 2 days, 3 days, and it looks the business, and you involve clients in it, and you ask anyone for their opinion, they're going to give you an opinion. and
Yeah.
the more authority they have, the more likely they are to express an opinion.
Mm.
Until you go all the way up to the top, to the top man, the CMO. Maybe it's the first time he's even seen the project, and he goes, "I don't like it." It and suddenly, well,
I know.
yeah,
I know.
it's
So a lot of the people that listen and the kind of, I guess, the target audience for this podcast is people that are building something, whether that's a business, a book, they're starting a
yeah,
YouTube channel, whatever. A lot of them will be dabbling with AI.
yeah,
For most people, it's probably ChatGPT or Claude, but there will be some people that are using generative AI to create graphics, videos, whatever it might
yeah,
be.
yeah.
What would you say is the best approach to start generating images or videos using AI? Nothing like super crazy or complex, but you just want to start creating graphics that don't look like ChatGPT's graphics, which has that weird sepia filter on it and everything
Uh,
looks the same.
yeah.
Like how would you describe a good approach to someone who's just starting to play with these tools? Maybe they're doing it for their own marketing purposes, for example.
Well, firstly, anything I say is gonna be out of date by the time I finish this sentence. That's the first thing to say about that. Um, I I mean, there's 400 plus different bits of software out there,
Mm,
um, and I wouldn't want to give anyone a bum steer. Um, I wouldn't. Uh, I don't know. It's too broad a question. If you're doing still graphics, I'd probably still use Photoshop.
mm,
If I was going to do video, then I'd use. I mean, depending on use Seed Dance or Nano Banana or VO or
mm,
Google. Depending on where it's going and copyright issues and things like that. Um, I mean, if you want, I mean, even things like Artlist are doing really good um,
mm,
sort of software, and Higgsfield, obviously. Um, but but the thing is, I suppose that once you use one piece of software, you get the idea. It's like ChatGPT. We were all 3 years ago, no one knew what ChatGPT was, and now we got
mm,
800 million people using it 10 times a day. You just put your feet in the water and try it. Don't be intimidated by it because it is
mhm,
fairly intuitive. And the risk, you don't have to know much in order to get quite a good result. Um, and and then the route to market is, or what format, platform, channel are you going to put
yeah.
it on, and how are you going to do it? You know, I mean, and then that goes into, well, if you're going to put it on Insta, you can use a carousel. What time you're going to post? You're going to put it on LinkedIn. Well, who you're going to at in? What are the hashtags? And you get into all of that stuff.
Mm,
Um, that's a huge subject. But
mm,
but I think one of the emerging trends is going to be authenticity, and the more you can fake that, the better you're going to be. No, it is the I think we're not going. I think we're sleepwalking into an environment where you're not going to be able to trust what you see. You're not going to be able to trust what you hear. Even this, right?
mhm.
No one out there probably listening to this or watching this thinks that I'm a deep fake or you're a deep fake, right? 6 months from
But you
now,
could be.
I could be, and we both know how to do it, I'm guessing.
Mhm, mhm,
But right now, we're going into an environment where we're not going to be sure. We can't be certain, and so I think the more people, um, well, they know now not to. People know now not to use GPT and then lob it up onto a website, because you'll be penalized for that. You have to
yeah.
write it, and even. And there's stuff I don't know about. I mean, there's a big question mark over Grammarly at the moment. I don't know whether or not that's going to affect, copy that goes up on our blogs, for example. Um, there's a, and I'm actually on my podcast. I'm interviewing somebody next month about how search is going to be affected by Perplexity and Claude and OpenAI versus Google.
Mm-hmm.
That is shifting, and Google are in this sort of a paradox because they've got obviously Google AdWords, but they've also got Gemini. So what are they going to do? I don't know. So there's all of that kind of roiling different marketing approaches, and I think authenticity is where it's going to come. And get on blogs, get on podcasts, and shout about what you're doing. What is your approach to what is your product and service? That what makes you unique, what takes you apart from other people. Yeah,
because I'm really curious to see like where all this goes, because everyone is talking about authenticity, and it's something that I think about a lot. And it almost feels like we need to go in two separate directions. We need to have the authentic content that is very raw. It feels like we're going this way anyway. The content that feels raw, it's shot on a phone, it's just pretty much just people talking, uploaded to wherever. And then you've got the AI content that's more polished.
Yeah.
Because I guess something I'm also curious about is the raw mobile phone is easier to look at and think that must be a real person, because if you look at what AI replicates that high production value polish, because there's not many people faking mobile phone content or that style. But I guess at some point we will see more content that looks more rough and ready.
Yeah.
But AI's simulated it.
Well, that's one of the
as well.
With animation, isn't it? I mean, good way to get to uncanny valley is to have no blemishes. If you're going to have a wine glass, you better put a thumbprint on it someplace. Otherwise, it's just going to look fake. And so there will be, there's probably an industry term for it, I can't think of it now, but where you are deliberately degrading something to make it look like real life, which is an interesting philosophical thing as well. It's if life looks too perfect, then it feels fake and makes you feel uncomfortable. So
yeah,
there's a
yeah, I know. Do you think anyone should play with generative AI tools? Like if you run a business or you're a content creator or you run a charity or whatever, should we all be experimenting with these tools? Do you think?
I don't think we've got a choice. I don't think we've got a choice. I mean, the way things are happening, we're on the border of the liminal space between today and agentic AI. And when agentic AI hits, then somebody really ought to be across it, because it's going to save time and hopefully do a better job. I mean, at the moment, there are some howlers, obviously. I had a hallucination earlier today on GPT. It's like, I cannot cross-check this stuff. I need you to be right the first time. And, I wouldn't ever run our company accounts through Claude or something like that, because, a misstep there could really mess us up. But it's only going to get better. Today's as dumb as AI is ever going to be. And so I think everyone needs to understand how it can support you. And there's going to be massive downsides. I met a guy the other day who said 80% of all commercial security issues are staff using GPT and staff using software personally and typing stuff into it that's commercially sensitive. And then that's without things like Mythos, coming out of left field and creating all sorts of panic around the financial system.
Yeah, I was working on a project the other day that I was under an NDA for, and we needed a voiceover for the video. And I got someone to just talk to me. And normally what I would do is I would then take that audio file, I'd transcribe it, I'd give it to Claude, and I'd ask it to write a first draft of a voiceover. But I thought, I'm under an NDA here. I probably can't follow
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
even though it would save me so much time.
Yeah.
So I ended up going through the transcript myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And taking the 2 hours or 3 hours that it would take to write it myself.
Good for you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's exactly it, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, and
It is.
that's why, you know, with psychotherapy, just touching back on that, that's why I think there's some real challenges around that. Everybody's uploading their personal details, you know, just like they did with Facebook. And that's going to Microsoft, you know?
I know.
That's not a thing. You know, in Jamie's book, you know, I'm shilling for Jamie here. Jamie's book, you know, How to Talk to AI. You know, that's what we're heading into. We've got where everyone's, you know, the biggest use of LLMs at the moment is therapy and relationship therapy, and everyone's sharing their dirty little secrets and where's that information going? And you know, they are not benign. Look at Palantir. Look what Karp said last week. You know, yeah, we got lovely doe-eyed Sam Altman out there, or you know, kind of cuddly Hesibesis or Modi, you know, and then you got Karp, and you think, you know, are we being deep faked here? You know,
Yeah, I know.
You know, how aligned really are we with? Dude, they are CEOs of some billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
You know, they're not cuddly people.
What do your clients say when you're having conversations about AI projects? Because you work with some big companies.
Yeah.
Are they worried about the fact that you're using AI? Are they like, just go for it, whatever, because the big tech companies are going to have all the data anyway? Like, where do they sit on this conversation?
They really are. Well, it depends on the market sector. So you've got two market sectors. The most conservative really is healthcare and financial.
Sure.
And if we work with 12, 13 Fortune 500 companies, and we work with a couple of the world's biggest banks. So they are rightly concerned about it because of IP and because of copyright. So what we've done is we've bought, well, firstly, I personally think that when everybody can make pretty pictures 2 years from now, and everybody will be able to, when we've got, you know, VO 12 and Dance 8 and, you know, Google Vertex 15 or whatever, everybody able to make pretty pictures. So what's the next frontier? The next frontier is going to be copyright and IP. We've got to be able to protect that because that's, you know, 1/3 of any brand is the brand equity, and you can't. That needs to be protected vigorously. So don't give your brand book or your color palette or everything to a company. It's then going to stick it into an AI, and then everyone can have it. Never mind your brand ambassador. You know, your cartoon cat or your honey monster. You know, whatever, your tiger. That, you know, or you know, it's going to end up in a video someplace, and your brand equity is going to be shot. And that's before you even get to commercially sensitive information, which is happening more and more because people are using AI to produce a mammogram that can produce a piece of radiology equipment that can read a mammogram in 50 times faster. So there's all this. So what we've done is we now have a tier that companies can use, which we guarantee that as best as we can, that we will only use enterprise licenses on the software, and that means that you are ensured that to the best of our ability, you will be protected in terms of where your IP and your copyright goes. Furthermore, we check the provenance of any other content that even you are going to provide to us to make sure that this is belt and braces, that nothing is going to leak. And then we've got back end systems that double down on that. But you can't do enough, I don't think.
No. So let's talk about this, because what you're alluding to is you've just partnered with
AI Animation.
AIanimation.com.
Yeah.
I guess talk me through what that platform is and why. I mean, you've kind of alluded it to already, but why you decided to set up that partnership and how it fits in with Synima.
So we bought 50% of AI Animation because we think the new frontier, once video once anybody can produce AI generated video and animation, once we have Google 12 and Nana Banana 8 and Seed Dance 12, the next frontier is going to be protecting your copyright and protecting your IP. So what we've done with AI animation is AI animation's got processes and licenses with the big software providers, which we can now offer in turn to our clients. So we can say to them, if you're ever going to produce a video with us, you will be able to sleep at night knowing that your IP and your copyright is protected. And we will only use software that has got an enterprise license attached to it. We will check the provenance of anything that you give us, even so that we know there's no copyright issues, and you're not going to have your brand leaking out, your brand equity leaking out, and being tarnished through any sort of misstep by the production of your content. And that's been really warmly received. I mean, it is a concern. Not so much the financial, the money; it's the reputational damage. You don't. If you're a big bank or a big tech company, or God forbid, you're in healthcare. You cannot afford any reputational damage. And that's what. And we've seen so many. Just look at the music industry. I mean, just look at Shania Twain, for example. I mean, it's really difficult. And I mean, just because people and brands have got this equity that's really important, and weird and wonderful things happening. So, for example, at the moment we're bringing back the dead. Even the dead. Sorry to be ghoulish about this. Even the dead have got brand equity, and they're being brought back. So Val Kilmer is now being brought back to appear in a movie. We've got, I think, 3 projects on at the moment where we're bringing back either a founder from 200 years ago as a animated oil painting, or actually, and I can't name check them because I'm under NDA, but a major hairdresser who passed away recently that will be leading the AGM at that company in June. So this really important, the IP and the copyright, and it's going to represent itself in so many different ways. And we as a production company have to be diligent about it and be able to advise clients about it, and ensure that to the best of our ability we can indemnify them against anything going wrong. It was always thus, right? But now it's easier than ever to nick something. To put it, not to put too fine a point on it. So we have to be aware of that and ensure that our clients are protected.
And within the way that the system works, I understand protecting the leak of your client's IP and that being protected under that license. But let's say you're creating a scene and you need like a car in the scene. How do you protect the AI from generating an image using a copyrighted image of Tesla's new Roadster that hasn't technically been released to the public yet, but the LLM has access to it? How do you protect from copyright coming into the images or the videos or whatever?
Well, we rely on enterprise licenses that we pay a lot of money for with ByteDance and Google and various others, Seed Dance. So it better bloody not turn up, and if it does turn up, well, we've never had it happen. So we have to rely on, in turn, the enterprise licenses that we have with those organizations that won't happen, and it hasn't happened to date. In order to ensure that that everything's as it should be. I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter, James. It does matter if you're doing a brand video that's going to go on LinkedIn and you're a major bank. It doesn't matter if you're doing a one and done, goodbye Mary. You've been a fantastic CEO. Here's a a goodbye video for you, because obviously
Yeah.
we can do crazy stuff with AI, and
Mm.
it really, the weird and wonderful. Yes, okay, there's a lot of slop out there, but you really still can have some fun, and
Yeah.
there's no point having an enterprise license around doing that one and done. It's just, it's for a gala dinner or something. It's never going to go online, and even if it did, so what? But if it, but if it is a part of if it's commercially sensitive, then you've got to protect it as best you can, and that's going to be an arms race between, you know.
Mm. How do you think about AI in this context of, is it enhancing human creativity or is it destroying human creativity? Because it does feel, certainly amongst the creative industry,
Yeah.
whether you're a filmmaker, a voiceover artist, a designer, whatever, that there are two quite strong camps in that you're either pro AI of various levels, or you are very, very, very anti AI.
Mm-hmm.
How do you? Because you've obviously adopted it. Like
Yeah.
your business has evolved through a lot of technical change within the creative industry. You've
Yeah.
gone from, DV tapes and VHS and betamax through the original like DSLR revolution
Yeah.
into HD, 2K, 4K, 8K, and now into AI. So you're clearly someone that is open to change.
Yeah.
But like, how do you think about it from a human creativity perspective?
It kills me. I mean, look, when that video dropped from Sora, everybody felt a chill, and I mean, I love animation. I love the craft of animation, stop motion animation, obviously, hand drawn animation with Disney. I love it, and I love the people involved in it. I love the craft of it. That's the word, the craft of it. And when it became clear what, and I never expected the AI revolution to touch our game. I mean, we don't use Excel sheets. Well, my FD does, but I don't. Nobody, and animators don't. What the hell is it doing parking its tank on our lawn? Well, off, there's nothing to do with us. And yet there's Sora blatantly showing us, that video with the woman walking through a rainy Tokyo in a trench coat, or there's Will Smith, munching his way through a bowl of spaghetti. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is actually going to happen. And I was one of the most vocal people saying we don't want anything to do with it. It's just a fact. It'll pass, right? I've been around the blocks. I understand CB radio. I understand, they won't. No, it's just coming and coming and coming. And the animators, specifically the animators, were worse than I was, because they saw their degree and their years of commercial experience being flushed down the toilet. And that's a killer. That's a real killer. And that's before you get into all the other elements of it, the social aspect. So I've had to, because the clients are asking for it. 40% of our inquiries now are AI. Can you do AI? And if we don't provide it, then somebody else will, right? So we have to lean into it. And at the moment, at the time of going to recording this, we still have got a phalanx of animators globally who produce what we call, this hybrid approach to animation, because the software, it isn't as good as the companies say it is. We still haven't got character consistency the way we want it or the way our clients want it. So the animators are still golden, probably for the next 12 to 18 months. But you best believe we're making sure the animators learn AI so that they have that language to liaise with producers and perhaps to liaise with clients as well. And our clients are learning about AI, because I'm going into companies doing AI consultancy with in-house production teams, because they all want to know how to use it. Right? There's a whole. So now we have had clients come to us with the commercial. We want a bit like this. So now, if I'm running a production company and a client gives me a video they've produced using AI. In fact, I'll tell you, James, it's one of them was a Back from the Dead AI. It was a client who had an oil painting, and they'd used something to make the oil painting speak. This is what we want to do. Honest to God, I looked at that and I thought, oh, I didn't understand. How the hell did he do that? I was sitting in the meeting, and straight afterwards, back in the street, it was winter, it was in the rain, and I was I was on the blower to our head of AI going, "Is this possible?" Yeah, it's just come out. Oh my God, what? I have to know about this, or we have to know about this. This is the way it's going. And now, as a production company, as a head of a company, the founder of a company, I have a duty of care to my staff and responsibility to them that we understand what's going on. And I don't like it. And I really fear, and I cannot stress this enough, I really fear for the consequences of what we're doing socially and psychologically. To go right back to the start of the conversation. I mean, I have real reservations about it. And unfortunately, I'm involved in it.
I was going to say, how do you think about that? Because if you were talking to someone who is very negative, they would say, well, Quint, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think about it? Or do you not try to think about it too much? It's probably best to not think about it too much.
I mean, I suppose if I want to give myself an out, I have to know the rules in order to play by them.
Yeah.
I can advise and do advise organizations what to watch out for. I am doing my bit in terms of mental health to try to harness AI for good by producing videos that address mental health issues. But yeah, it's a fine line it's a tightrope I'm walking on. I feel a little like King Canute. It's coming, right? There's not much we can do about it. I can employ all the animators and listen. I tell you, the other thing is there are some places where you can't use AI, right? When you get to celebrities, you get to sports stars, you get to a conference where they want to see. I mean, I saw the Prodigy on Saturday night. I don't want to see an AI of the Prodigy. I want to see the Prodigy, right? And so there are going to be sectors where AI daren't tread because they just can't do it. And theatre. I'm a massive fan of the theatre. If I want to go see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I want to see the thing. I don't want to see an avatar of it. I want to be there. And I think, he said, warming to his theme, I think, there will be a premium on live experience. And I think there'll be a premium on face-to-face. And again, talking to Jamie Bartlett about this last week, I would rather be in the room with you, James, with a beer or a cup of tea, talking. I'd rather be watching an artist. I would rather, at the theatre or at the or at a band. And I think there will, and certainly from a security point of view, they're cooked in the common parlance. How are you going to have a witness protection program? How are you going to, now we can depixelate faces, right? Right now. So what's that doing to the BBC archives? They must be having a conniptic fit over there right now because there can, I hope I haven't said anything too bad there, but I mean,
I think so.
You can do that now. So what's going to happen to security? How are you going to have witness protectors? How are you going to have whistleblowers? How are you going to have, you're going to have to see them face to face. So maybe there will be this undercurrent that will the AI won't be everywhere because it can't be.
I mean, it plays into what we were talking about earlier around authenticity. It does feel like, if you are a brand or an individual with a personal brand or whatever, it is almost like you can use AI to enhance your message to the world, whatever that might be, or promote your products. But as you say, but if you want to spend real time with the brand and activation or the individual, there will be a premium attached to it because you'll be able to have a real interaction where we can talk about a fresh perspective because the AI has only been trained on everything that I've said
Yeah.
up until this point. But if I have a new epiphany overnight,
Yeah.
my AI is not going to echo that
Yeah.
sentiment right now. So
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think there's going to be a big comeback of spending time in person.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll be even slightly more extreme. We'll have like our digital world. And then when we unplug from that, we want to be completely unplugged and, run off into the forest together to pick mushrooms or whatever.
No, I think I mean, there is a quality, look, we're mammals, right? And we're hypersocial mammals. And this little experiment we've been having with these black mirrors has been going on now since 2007. It's relatively recent. It's not even 20 years. And everything we've talked about, my company's 26 years old. It's you're what, 35 or something. So, are you? Right. And
I'm 36. It was my birthday at the weekend.
Oh, happy birthday! And
so I'm still 35.
It's all been in the look. It's all been in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can't put the genie back in the bottle now. But there is a premium on face to face. There will be a sitting down with my kids face to face rather than sitting on a WhatsApp, seeing, as I will be in a minute, going out for lunch with two directors. I want to do that. I don't want to do it. I'm fed up with Zoom. I'm fed up with Teams. I'm fed up with WhatsApp. I want to be there with somebody. I want to get on the motorbike in a minute and ride over to Weybridge and sit in the Giggling Squid and have a jasmine tea and eat some dim sum with two mates. I want to do that. And maybe, So the authenticity is there because it has to be in some professional respects, but from a visceral, personal, human point of view, we have to keep hold of this relationship. I mean, look, therapy. I mean, the whole industry of therapy is going to be in real trouble because once those LLMs have got avatars attached to them, we're into Blade Runner, where but is that the same as sitting down in a room with somebody? Not really. Is therapy as it's currently done going to last? Probably not, unless you can really afford it. Because it's still going to cost you £80 to £100. Who's got that kind of money? But on the other hand, will people be able to diagnose and treat and do psychoeducation around mental health processes easier than they currently do today? Yeah, undoubtedly. These are questions which I find really, really challenging, and I'm not sure what the answer is. And there are too many prophets out there telling us that it could be this way. As to your point, the techno-optimist, the techno-pessimist. I mean, I just read Yudowski's book. If anyone builds it, everybody dies. I mean, what?
Where do you sit? Are you optimist, pessimist, or somewhere in the middle?
I was too close to reading that book. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure socially what's going to happen. We both know how visual images can be manipulated by bad actors in order to communicate points of views that aren't true. Misinformation, disinformation, propaganda. So someone's got to control that, and that person's got to be a nice person. Broad brushstrokes. And we're seeing playing out on a daily basis now with the war in Iran and with the geopolitical challenges that's bringing up. And there are some people talking more sense than others. Some people, I would include Mark Carney in that, and some people not talking sense. Well, we can leave it to our own imagination, but and we can see it, right? We can, you and I, but the Gen Alphas, the Gen Zers, it's tricky. If you've been born and raised on it, and that's your milieu, because we've got something to compare it to, right? Right?
Yeah.
We have got I can compare Google Maps to the A to Z, right? You can, but if you're been immersed in it all your life, you'd be like one of my tropical fish, like asking them what water's like. He doesn't know. He's been in it all his life. What's the alternative? Not a Scooby-Doo. So, yeah.
Does it create a lot of opportunity though, do you think? Like, we talked a lot about business and creating things. Does it level the playing field for people wanting to start businesses, start personal brands, whatever it is that they're thinking about?
I think I think it does. I mean, we certainly, fewer people can do much, much more if they're literate with everything that's going on around them. I think it will create a digital divide. I think if you're going to use the argument, it's going to harness, it's going to make you think in another way, it's going to amplify what skill sets you've got. You best have those skill sets in the first place, because if you haven't got the motivation, or you're feeling that you're not going to be able to, your self-confidence is shot, and you don't reach out and start using this stuff, you're going to get left behind. I mean, we can dress it up all you want. Oh yes, well, unemployment's going to go up double digits, but on the other hand, there'll be all these other jobs created. Really? Really? And by the way, all the stats around AI in education. I mean, Rebecca Winnicott, her report just came out just saying that, it's falling off a cliff. Cognitive offloading is becoming cognitive stunting. So if that's a generation that's coming through, I don't know. I can't speak to that. I'm glad that some of the challenges that we face weren't of the same order the challenges that some people are facing now. But I will say, if you want to go and start a business, go and start a business. Go and do it. You either got to do it, or you got to live with the regret that you didn't try. And if you've got a business, just give it a shot. Give it a shot, and use AI, because you go further with AI than you would have done on your own. One of our, obviously a lot of our staff have got side hustles, and they're using AI to promote their clothing brand, or to promote their brand, their band, and to do things. They're all literate, and of course they can do promos for themselves, and do some fantastic stuff. So, yeah,
it's probably a good place to end.
All right,
this has been great. This has been really good. I do have some quick fire questions for you, just to go through. So my first question, and knowing that you've met a lot of interesting people, what's been the most insightful conversation that you've had recently, and why?
Jamie Bartlett. I interviewed him for a podcast, and the podcast went from 40 minutes. I was allowed 40 minutes, and it went to 2 hours, and we're still talking, and the conversation's still running on. I mean, his book available now. I'm not shilling his book. How to talk to AI, fairly innocent question. Bloody hell. It's a page turner. Yeah, of course. How do you jailbreak an LLM? How do you get an unbiased, the conversation that happened on that podcast. Actually, he was physically in the room with me, but that really has got a long tail on it. So Jamie Bartlett's the guy that's made me really think recently about it. Yeah.
And everyone's going to be wondering, is he related to Stephen Bartlett, or just they have the same surname?
No, I had never made that connection. No, he must get that a lot.
I'm sure.
No, he's an independent author. He told me, and I've kind of forgotten. He did some book on a crypto queen that stole $4 billion and is still live, still on the FBI wanted list.
I listened to a podcast about her a while ago. I cannot remember for the life of me what it was called.
That was his. But the thing he's put out at the moment, it's called Everything is Fake and No One Seems to Care. And I listened to that. And I thought, he's saying something really interesting. Reached out to him on LinkedIn. He got back to me. We met in Soho, and then he popped down and we had a chat. And now I'm editing the podcast that we did that's going out, and he's got a lot to say. It's interesting, but it's all about how to talk to AI.
Yeah,
and,
which I think everyone needs to learn, and I think we probably also need to learn a little bit how to talk to each other more as well. Certainly with.
Yeah,
I think so.
That's good. Well, I've really enjoyed our talk.
That's my thing.
Are we working our way to an outro here? We probably are.
We are. We're meandering there. Okay, a couple more. What is one subject that you wish you knew more about?
I wish I knew more about history. I'd like to know more about history. From regional perspective, Southeast Asian history, South American history. Those are real blank spots with me, and I'd like to know more about that. So, I've just become a member of the English Heritage. I know bugger all about English history. I really don't. I went to go and stand in the castle the other day, and it said, "Oh, it's a Saxon castle with Norman sort of leanings." Blah blah blah. You may as well be going blah 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 blah. I have no idea what that means. I did 10 minutes later because I looked it up on GPT, and then I was a bloody expert.
Yeah.
But I know I'm pretty good up to sort of 17th century, but before that, Greeks and Romans, no.
Well, there's a really good. Well, there's a few of them, I think. There's a lot of AI videos of like waking up as a Egyptian peasant, for example, and it's like all point of view, and you just follow their way through their life. So it'll be like, they wake up at this time and you see their surroundings. Then they go down to the market and there's this going on. And then in this case, it might be then they go and work on the pyramids because they're building the pyramids. There's a few of them knocking around. If you search for like history POV or something,
okay,
you'll find things like that on TikTok. It's fascinating to see what they've created. I know you've traveled quite a lot for work. What's one place that you've visited that you'll never forget?
So many. I really like Colombia. I was just in a place called St. Lucia, not the island of St. Lucia. St. Lucia in just north of Durban, and that was mental. Hippos walk down the streets at night.
Wow!
You're just sitting there, and there's a hippo. It's a big beast. It's walking the street. It's mental. It absolutely. You just think I'm having some sort of psychotic episode here. There's a hippo walking down the street. No one told me about that, and there it is, a hippo. It's big, and that was crazy. St. Lucia. And the other thing about it was just so cheap. Obviously, the rand's so cheap. We ate like kings over there.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I'm sure.
St. Lucia.
So last two, and this is interesting. All of these questions fit back to things that you've done. So thinking about bringing back people from the dead.
Oh yeah.
Who would be one person that you haven't met that you'd love to have a conversation with? Normally, I ask people someone that's alive, but I'm going to ask you. Someone who's no longer alive, who would you love to speak to?
Robin Williams.
What would you ask him?
Oh, well, it would be one hell of a conversation.
It would.
Yeah, I never met the guy. I would just like to just talk to him about his life and his career and his, he had a few sort of mental issues there and issues with addiction and he was just one of those souls, that I'd love to spend time in his company and talk to him about his perspective of things. Love. I've never heard a bad word against him, not once.
No, I never have.
No, so I'd love to meet him. Yeah.
And then last one.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, go on. No.
Last one. What is something that you've done in your life that you're most proud of?
Quitting booze. That was 12 years ago. I never thought I was ever going to be able to do that. That was impossible. And I did it. I've done it a day at a time. and my whole life changed. I mean, if I'd have carried on doing what I was doing, I wouldn't be here, I don't think.
Right.
And I know it sounds like hyperbole. It sounds maybe sounds ridiculous to some of the audience, but if anybody out there has got an addiction, they'll know what I'm talking about. And and that was tough to do that. And you're never out of it. You never kind of qualify. But on a day-to-day basis, I have my quality of life is so much better. I'm a much better boss. I mean, husband, although don't ask my wife. Kids, the whole shebang. The whole thing changed when I got sober. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Quint, we could probably carry on talking for ages, but I'm going to call it there. This has been fascinating.
Well, I really hope it was really great talking to you, James, as well. Really great. And I hope that some of it was interesting to the audience as well.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.